Hello, my name is Diana. This is the webinar about web accessibility, where I will not only tell you what is web accessibility, for who it's important, how big is the problem, how to solve it, why now it's important, but also I will show you practical example of how to make a web accessibility audit and how to be sure that your site or digital product is accessible. So I prepared a presentation for you. I hope you will enjoy it. Let me open it. So yeah, I will try to answer the following questions: what, why, for who, why now, and how. So a little bit of information about me. My name is Diana. I studied in Bauman Moscow State Technical University. I studied biotechnology, so I got a lot of information about how people with disabilities they function, how they use internet, what are important things to know about their state and how to make it better for them. Then I moved to France and I got a master's degree here in Centrale Supélec and École Polytechnique. So I'm a master in biomechanics. Then I worked for 6 years in web development. So I got a lot of information and experience about how to create site or digital product, specifically like what the client want, the company or the client, how to make it attractive and good for the customer. But literally during my education and during my professional experience, I didn't hear about web accessibility. 2 years ago, that's when I heard about this, and it completely changed my world and it changed my professional path because I couldn't believe that there was no information about it before in my biggest universities. So it's so important to remember that the design that you're creating and the code that you're writing should provide access to all the people, should provide equal access. This was not an idea, so this was not an idea for me before, and I didn't know about this. So for 2 years, I followed different courses, including courses of organization W3C that actually writes the standards to create web content accessible. But I also got a certification from Access42 organization that trains people to make them web accessibility specialists, and I passed an exam, and now I'm here to share with you my knowledge and experience. So what is web accessibility? It is about creating design that help people with disabilities and eventually everybody to use websites and technologies equally in the same way. It's about inclusivity. We can think about web accessibility like a pandus, like this physical construction that help people, handicapped people on the streets to move from the point A to point B or to go inside the buildings. It helps it accessible to everybody. It's the same. Web accessibility is the same, but for digital world. And it's not just about people with diseases, like for example there are people with visual diseases, disabilities, sorry, like blindness, low vision, color blindness, or some people could be deaf or it is hard for them to hear, motor disabilities, cognitive disabilities, ADHD, for example, but it's also for everybody, it's for all of us because we are all can be in temporary disabilities. Like for example, if we are not fortunate, we can break an arm and so we'll need to use computer or phone with one hand, which is much harder and we are not used to it, so it will provide uncomfortable situation, uncomfortable usage. Or for example, situational limitation. I don't speak Portugal language, for example. So if I go on the site, but there is just Portugal language, no other languages, I will not be able to understand what is on the site. So I will be in the situational limitation. But in general as well, bad design disables. If we have a perfect site with perfect contrast, the images, everything, but the sites, they have broken links, or it's just written on the buttons, for example, click me, it might not this doesn't provide really information which action will happen if we click on it, especially for people with disability, with visual disability, like people who use screen reader. It's a special device, technology, assistive technology, that helps them to hear what is on the site. So if we close our eyes and we try to navigate through site, we cannot do this. And for people who cannot see the site, they use the technology that helps them to hear all the elements of the site. So if it's written just click me, they will not be able to see what exactly is going to happen. There's no additional text or image, especially if the image doesn't have alternative text. But this is a little bit deeper. The other aspect is that all of us, even if we are lucky and we never broke anything, we know many languages, so we feel free, we all get older. Every day we're aging, which means that we all will have the changes, aging changes. The age will affect our ability to understand the information. We will not be able so easily to understand complicated texts, long ones, complicated phrases. The visual disability will just be whether it's going to be very hard or just slow, but in some level it will affect. So the age is the enemy. Well, it's not the enemy, it's actually the part of life, but it will make us all here like a part of people for whom it's important to have accessible sites. So it's for everybody, and we need to create sites and digital products for us in the future, for everybody. So this is what web accessibility. Here I prepared the slide just to show you how big is the number of people with disabilities worldwide. It's actually not such a small number. Every 7th person has disability, so it's more than 1 billion worldwide, and 6% of the world's population affected by deafness, 17% affected by blindness. And I prepared also a slide, yeah, here. So visually it's 2.2 billion people, different types of disabilities, like for example color blindness. It's not really disability, but it affects the way how we see the site. So we need, for this type of people, we need to create accessible site. If we have a low contrast, they will not be able to see. If we click on the red button, for them it might not be right, it might not be red. So if we use the color in the instruction, this is the problem. And it also has economic impact. It's counted that like around $7 billion annually companies they lose due to inaccessible websites. This is a huge amount of sum, because with each client for whom it's inaccessible, this is the client that you're losing. That's the money that you lose. So for the companies, it's also important. Okay, and now I prepared for you a video. So this, as I mentioned, I followed several courses about web accessibility, and I really like this video that shows how people with disabilities use the web. So I will just show you here. I hope it will open, and it will provide you a good vision of how it works for people with disabilities.
As you learned earlier, the W3C develops the standards for the web, including accessibility standards used for apps and documents. Since I'm W3C staff, you might expect that I would say the first thing to do to learn about accessibility is to go to the W3C accessibility standards. but I don't. If you start with the standards, you could end up like a deer in the headlights, just overwhelmed and frozen. The standards do have an important role, yet they're not the first step. They come later. The first step is understanding how people with disabilities use the web. And you'll learn that throughout this course, especially in the next module. Now, some people think of accessibility as just a checklist. It's just about meeting legal or project requirements. And that's one perception we'd like to change. Because really, accessibility is not about a checklist. It's about people. It's about real people with disabilities being able to use your website, apps, and digital technology. It's about the user experience. So I'm going to start by introducing you to some people with disabilities, some friends of mine and their user experiences. First, Glenda. Early on, when I was getting into accessibility, I followed several mailing lists, and I was really impressed with this person named Glenda. Through her emails, she came across as knowledgeable and friendly, and like even when others got kind of unpleasant on the mailing list or rambled on, Glenda was very professional and articulate, and I was just really impressed with how she communicated online. And it wasn't until later that I learned that Glenda has cerebral palsy.
Now, I have a speech disability, but to technology, I am a keynote speaker.
From the CP, Glenda's speech is really hard to understand. She has limited motor control of her arms and hands, but it doesn't impact her intellect. She's super smart and she's very funny. Glenda uses only her left thumb to type. She uses a text-to-speech app on her notepad for speaking, or her tablet. And you may be familiar with text-to-speech technology from Stephen Hawking, the theoretical physicist. And that's how Glenda interacts with technology. Now, Glenda was an early blogger. She wrote a book. She's a public speaker. And all of this is enabled by accessible technology. Glenda can't use a mouse. She uses a joystick. Another person who can't use a mouse is my friend Carl. Carl lost use of his arms from polio, so he uses a mouth stick to type. It's just a wooden dowel like this with an eraser head at the end. He keeps it in his shirt pocket and then he can use it to type. He uses it for dialing the phone, turning the book pages, etc. Carl's really big into home brewing, and he found an organization that repairs computers and donates them to Indigenous people. So your websites need to work for Carl and Glenda. They need to work with people who can't use the keyboard and not require a mouse. People who are blind also don't use a mouse to interact with computers. To get information from the screen, they use software called screen readers that reads aloud the information. I'll turn it back over to Anthony now, and he'll introduce you to screen readers.
Okay, so I hope this video was interesting for you, and now you saw several examples of how people with disabilities use assistive technologies. And now we'll show you the video that I created about the site with the Science. This is the company with which I'm in partnership with, and I work on the web accessibility of its site. So first I will show you how the site look like without any extension to be applied on it. So for all of us, the site look like this. I hope it will download. It should. And then I will show you how people with disabilities they see the site. It's very interesting extension that helps us to understand better how the site is functioning for people with disabilities. So this is how the site look like. You can see that it's very colorful, there are different parts, and it's a very cool site that helps you to learn coding. I very much advise to use it. So that's how it looks like. And now we will apply extension to see how people with disabilities they see it. So I prepared the video for you to show you how it changes the way the site look like. So here it is, like for example, people with total color blindness, how they see the site. So it becomes completely black and white with some gray. So that's why it's important not to use color for the instructions on the buttons or for some actions. That's how the site will look if you have yellow-blue color blindness. So we need to have high contrast mode for such people, and again, don't use colors in instructions. Here this is red-green color blindness, so you can see that all the colors they changed and they become like a yellow, violet, blue. This is far sightedness, so here it's important to have elements as big as possible so that it's easier to see even if you have a disability of such type. This is tunnel vision, so we see just particular part of the site. So what is important for this, how we can affect, in this case it's important to have not the text of full width but several columns. It's easier to understand, it's easier to focus, and for people with tunnel vision it's easier to read it. And it's important for them to be able to zoom in the text, and all the content of the site. This is sunshine. That's what we observe if we go to read this site under the sun. That's why it's important to have a very good contrast on the site. Parkinson disease, maybe you see, so the focus is shaking. It's very hard to put the mouse on specific button or the link to click, so it should be as big as possible. Dyslexia, that's when all the text it's moving. You can see that all the letters they are moving, it's impossible to read, so we need to avoid small text, we need to avoid difficult words and terms, the font should be big enough. Small vocabulary, so like it's a large part of world's population, and we need to avoid difficult words and terms, and the text should be small, like not too complex. This is how the site look for people with ADHD or autism. So people who have concentration problem, they think about different things. For them, the elements they move, so we need to avoid too much content. We need to have all the elements very, like it should be a simple design, not overcomplicated. I hope it was interesting experience for you to see how the site is changing according to disability that the person has. So we saw some assistive technologies, and these are other assistive technologies that I will show you. So for example, braille range, that's what people who are blind they use. For example, maybe you saw on some medicaments, there is a special language, like you can feel the braille on some packs for the medicaments. So this allows people with blindness to read what this medicament is for, and this assistive technology helps them to print, to write, to answer, to access web, and to navigate through web. That's how they do it. Single-headed keyboard, if you use just with one hand. Head stick to use if you cannot use both hands. Eye tracking, so that the focus move with your eyes. Visual keyboard, that's what most probably most of us used in the tablet or computer or the phone every day. Screen reader, that's what actually I use during my web accessibility audits. So I check how the site, all the elements of the sites, they are heard by the person who cannot see them. and there are a lot of others like trackball, control by thought, and others. So we understood what is web accessibility, for who it matters. Now we'll tell you why now, why we need to act now, why it's very important subject exactly now. So what makes the difference is a European Union directive. It makes it mandatory from June 28 of 2025, from the next year, to make all the sites and all the digital products accessible for all the companies that exceed 2 million euros in revenue annually, or who have more than 10 people in a team. So for now, it's just for these companies, but it will affect smaller and smaller companies, just like everything comes, like when there is a change, first it's like for bigger players and then it goes down to everybody. So it will be mandatory to have the site and all the products accessible starting from that date. There will be a check, the controllers that check throughout the web, they navigate and they check whether the sites and everything is accessible. And if it's not accessible, they will check, they will send a notification, and they will provide you a fee, like for example 30,000 every 6 months, in order if you have an accessible web content. This will not just take money because you have an accessible content. This also tells that there are thousands and thousands of people, potential clients, that you are losing because you are inaccessible. So this they hope that this will provide change, and I also hope that it will be like this. There were a lot of other laws, but this, the most practical and the one that really will provide a change, it's coming from 28th of June of next year. So by that time we need to change what we have, and we need to learn how to be web accessible in order to create new content and modifications of the content in accessible way starting from that date. So that's where I'm coming, and I hope I will be able to help. You can write me if you have any questions about these, or if you want to check whether your products or sites accessible. I will not be able today to check all the sites of the people who came to watch my webinar, but you can write me later in the message, or you can watch the webinar and learn about this theme, and if you want to discuss it, I will be very happy to help. So we understood why it's important now, and why it's important in general, and for who it's important. Now, how we do this, how we change, how we modify, so how we become accessible technically. And there are web accessibility standards, the guidelines developed by W3C organization to make web content accessible. So its purpose to ensure accessibility for all users. It has different versions, and right now they're working on the version 2.3. First it was 2.0, 2.1, 2.2. Now they're working on 2.3. But it's like number of rules. There are a lot that take into consideration all the elements, everything about digital content. So everything about the images, links, focus, headings, structure, alternative text, literally everything you can think of. They have rules how you need to program it, how you need to create it in order to make it accessible. You don't need to know all of them or to learn all of them, because it also depends. For example, if you have a site, then you need to think about front and back end, like specific elements of your site. You don't need to know all the guidelines, just the guidelines that apply to digital content that you have. And for example, if you're a social media manager, you might think that this is not about you, but no, every day you create content. For example, if you create a post in Instagram, just an image, something easy, you need to check that it has good brightness. You need to check that the text that you are putting on it, like just the name, of the post, that foreground and background have a good contrast. It should be 4.5 to 1. All this is about accessibility. If people, they cannot read the text on your image, if you put, like, for example, very light image and white text on it, they will not be able to read it. And I also had this, for example, and I'm sure that you also faced it, that sometimes you scroll social media and your eyes, they contract, like something is harder to read, harder to see. So when you need to make an effort, so it makes you feel uncomfortable about the content as well. You don't want to have uncomfortable association about your content for other people. You want them to be comfortable, you want to provide joy, you want to have uh, very positive thoughts about your content. And to be accessible, it means to make a good association about your brand, about your content. So here we go forward. I will try to show you some practical examples. You can write in the chat right now which examples of the site you would like to see, like what you would like to check. So what's gonna happen? We will go on the site, and I will show you with different extensions what you should put attention on, how to recognize mistakes, how to correct these mistakes, what is important. So as right now you're a little bit shy, I see. So I will show you first my site that I created right now. It's in the process of, like, I'm developing it right now. There are still changes, so it's not finished, but I will use it as an example right now, just to show you what you should put attention on. So here is the site, Tottillo. First thing, when you enter the site, your site or somebody else's site, the site that you want to see whether it's accessible, you need to go first from the top to bottom to check if you understand everything, if it's fine, if there are no moments that make you feel uncomfortable, if there is no flashing, which is very bad for people with epilepsy. If there is a flashing faster than every 5 seconds, I think it's every 3 seconds. I'm not sure about how fast it should be. Sorry, I will check this moment. But there's different things that you might feel. You might not know precisely that it's important for accessibility, but you will feel when you're on the side that something makes you uncomfortable. So first, this is the check, just without any software, any extension, no need for this. We just scroll, we just take a look, whether it's understandable, whether the text there not too small, can I read everything, do I understand everything, the contrast, like is there something that goes above so I can read, something like this. Okay, so for now I don't see, it's fine. So what I'm gonna show you with the extension Accessibility Insights for Web. Let's start with the color. So first I see if the color, if there is a good contrast, and there is something about color that makes it impossible to see if we take away the color from the site. So it becomes black and white with some gray, and I take a look. No, it's fine for now. This is important to see. It's not the first step to check, but it's one of the things, of course. So this, I think, is fine. Then we'll see, for example, landmarks. So I will go up. So here is the content. There is navigation. This is the banner. Then we have main landmarks. It should be just one, and we have just one main landmark, I think. Well, I hope. Yes. Okay. And there is a footer with content information and the map. So this we check the structure. Now we will check the headings. This is important moment, and I will tell you, of course, how to check it. So we need to have just one H1, so the highest level should be just one, and this is Tottillo, we have just one. There are several H2 levels. What is important is to check that when we have of each level the headings, they should have the same font, style, and color, and the size. So you can see that for this H2 I have all of them the same size, the same style, and the same color, to be absolutely sure that I don't lie to you. I will check it with you if it's really like this, because sometimes the eyes, they say it's the same, but there are some changes like in some pixels. So here we see that it's 48 pixel Montserrat sans serif, and it's 6 times 0, it's black color, so it's the same. Here it's the same, 48 black Montserrat. Yes, it's all the same. So this is important moment. Then we see that it's H3 and it's smaller. This is good. So we go to subsection, what is Tottillo. Then we go what we do with H3. And there are other subsections: create project, make accessible, training, promoting. There is another H3, so it's the same, but it's white on the dark green background. So here I would say that I need whether to make it H4, but preferably even to make it different, because the style is different of this H3. Here it's H4. This is good, and it's the same, I think, as that one. H4, H4, so they're all the same. H3. Here I see that the price level, the price tags, they should be different from H3, because this is the title for subsection, and we shouldn't have it. So here we go deeper in this subsection, and it should be smaller, the heading. I would say it should be H4. That's what I need to change. Here as well is the same. Here it's frequently asked questions, and it's H3 just like others. And here is contact us, which is smaller. Okay, so seems to be fine. Now, what is really important, I will not show you here a screen reader check. Maybe I will make another webinar about screen reader, because it really takes much more time. Just the check of one page of the site will be more than 10 minutes, because every single element, all the text is pronounced, so we will listen everything. It takes time, and it's hard actually to make a video of this. I tried several times, but as it has several windows opened for this, it makes it hard to catch everything. Okay, now we will check accessible names. That's literally how the site is seen by the screen reader. So what the screen reader will pronounce. This is the name Tottillo, designed for all, code for health, make a change, contact us to connect. So the violet, if you are not colorblind, well, it should be violet, but I hope you can see it. So what is Tottillo? We can see that all the elements in the iframe of YouTube can be seen, can be read. Here all the images, yes. Here, for example, I see that on the left, the image, it doesn't have anything violet, so it doesn't have a text, which means that it doesn't have alternative text. What it means? Alternative text, it's not something like, not all the elements, they should be, they should have accessible name. Because, like, for example, just if we look at both, we have, well, like here, we have in the beginning the banner with the plant with some coding, some schematics on it. This, I don't have accessible name for it, because it's just for decorative purposes. All the images, they are divided in two parts, in two types. meaningful, and decorative. If we have decorative image, we don't need to put accessible name for it. We just overload user with some information that he doesn't need. Does he need to read like that there is a background with the plant? No, it has nothing to do with the site. It's just for beauty. We don't need to put this information. So here I didn't put alternative text for this image because I use this as an example how accessibility report accessibility audit report look like, but this is just an example. It's not like that's precisely how it will look. No, it can look differently. It's just one of the forms. So in my mind, it's more decorative meaning rather than meaningful. Meaningful image, it means that if you take it away from the site, it will affect. So it contains meaningful information. Here, I consider it not meaningful. The same, like for example, the way how the page with my e-health projects they look like. Here we see that yes, it's a page, but it just shows how it looks like, but it's not meaningful information. If you follow the link to this page, you will see the information, what is there, the projects. The most important is the project, not the way how the page look like. So in my mind, it's decorative. And here as well, it's just the way how information on social media on my pages look like. Okay, now we go lower, like we go to web accessibility offers. So there are different ones and has all the accessible names here as well. And I should put attention that, for example, buttons, I didn't write choose it. It's written precisely choose basic plan, choose advanced plan, choose custom plan. So we have a differentiation of where if we click, that's what's gonna happen. That's what we're gonna choose. If like I have the same style for 6 buttons, but if I would just write choose it or choose the plan, this would provide a big problem for people who cannot read. Like for example, if they don't read the information what is advanced plan, then for them all of them the buttons will be just the same, and they won't be able to understand on which button they need to choose, on which button they need to click. These are frequently asked questions. Yeah, all the information can be read. Okay, yeah, and here as well. So we have accessible names for all the parts of the site. So now we'll close extension accessibility insights for web, and I will show you another extension, wave evaluation tool. So here, don't be afraid about all the elements that appear. It might in the beginning look a little bit scary. So this is a tool extension that can be applied to any site, and the very good thing is that it shows you straight what are the errors, alert, what are the problems with contrast. Luckily I don't have any, but it has details section, so you can open, for example, this is alert. I have a broken link, they say broken same page link. Okay, so I click on it and they say a link to another location within the page is present but doesn't have a corresponding target. Okay, so I open the code and they show me precisely what is it in the code. So I see that actually this was a link to the part with testimonials, but it's not there yet, it's not in the code yet, because I'm sorry, like this site, I'm working right now on it, it's not over, and I had the section with testimonials, now I don't have it, and I need to change the link. So this is very convenient way, and what is also interesting that they have a button, we can open it, and they will write precisely what it means, why it matters, how to fix it, the algorithm in English, and standards and guidelines connected to this mistake that they found. This is very convenient. Or for example, they say about the link, yeah, what it is precisely that they don't like. So there is the same link that I have for several parts. Yeah, so this is the link to my YouTube channel, and it's true that I have the same link for 3 following subsections, well, categories in subsection to be precise, for the make accessible, training, and promoting. But I have training videos, promoting videos, and web accessibility videos on YouTube. That's why I have the same link for these 3 sections. So for me it makes sense, but that's why they say it's alert, it's not an error. And I will explain why, like, there it's written 3 errors, but they're a little bit like they don't have the same brightness as other elements. It means that it's inside the code, but it's not on the side. The web developers, they can understand that we can hide some elements. They might still be in the code, but they're not seen. So in my case, they say that there is some image that that doesn't have alternative text, but right now precisely I cannot see it, I cannot find it, and anyway it's hidden. But this is good because, for example, even things that we don't see, screen reader will read them. I saw on many sites that when there is screen reader check, when all the elements are pronounced, screen reader will still see that, like for example, if you write in the code, just there is a text like P, we open the element P and we close it, so we don't put anything inside, it's empty. The screen reader will still read it, that there is an element with the text, but it's empty. So these are such elements, such moments that we should think about. Even if it's not seen on the side, it will be heard or it will be seen in a way. This information will be seen for people with disabilities. So it shouldn't be like this. Okay, there's also a reference, like what I said, it's really good, the detailed information. This is a navigation order with all the links of the site. That's how people with disability, they will read the site. That's how it will look for them. When they use a tab or arrows to navigate through the site. This is the structures. That's how we can check that there is a header, there is navigation with each one, then there is 3 headings and the main part, and the footer with H3 and H4 level headings. And what is quite interesting is that that tool that you can see on the left, the contrast, you can play with it and you can choose different contrasts just to see on the white background or any other background. Actually, you can see how it changes whether you pass or don't pass the web accessibility guideline. So they write here AA and AAA. AA it's like more basic version of guidelines. AAA it's more advanced, more new, and you can see that if we put like 7:1, that's where AAA fail. If you decrease, and for AA it's 4.5. You will see that it's changing here. Yeah. So it's also important to understand that if we are talking about small text, that's the contrast ratio. But the bigger is the text, the smaller contrast ratio might be. It cannot be smaller than 3:1, but for example, the bigger is the text, the easier it is to understand what is written. Like for example, this H3 heading, it might be 3:1, but the small text, when it's smaller, so the contrast should be higher. The smaller the text, the higher the contrast. But too small text, it shouldn't be. So we should play with the parameters in order to be accessible for all the guidelines. Okay, I just come back to my presentation. So it's important to remember about web accessibility that it's about inclusivity. It's about everybody, regardless of ability. It's about legal compliance in France starting from June 28. It's about improving usability and just making better user experience for all your customers. It's about ethical responsibility to promote equal access and digital equality. We also can get some benefits from it, like wider audience reach, SEO advantages, because it improves search engine optimization and site visibility. We make it better for customers to make it better their user experience on your site or using your digital products. And it's innovation driver. It encourages creative solutions and design thinking. So there are really a lot of advantages to web accessibility, and I hope that it was interesting for you um, to to be present on my webinar and to see the presentation. And again, if you have some ideas after the webinar and you would like to check some sites, or you need help to understand web accessibility, or you're interested in this subject, I will be happy to talk to you and I will be happy to help. So thank you again very much. And remember that I'm Diana, I'm your web accessibility expert, and I will be happy to help you not to be lost in these web accessibility guidelines and information. So let's stay in contact, and I'll be happy to see you in my next webinar. Thank you.